Alright, so last year when I was shooting IDPA, I set my goal to make master, and if I made master, I would buy myself a reloading press. And at first, I was looking at Dillon always because just their reputation of customer service, is really what I was looking for. And I was just looking at a little square deal, just to do some pistol. And one of my buddies talked me into it. Hey, you should just invest in a 650. At least get a Dillon 650. You won't be disappointed. And then I started doing some other research, and then another guy told me, said, oh, no. You got to get a 1050. And I was like, well, that's like way too much. I've never even reloaded on a single stage. And all my buddies at co-workers and stuff, that they usually reload rifle rounds and stuff, but they all reload on single stage presses at work. None of them have progressives, so they were all trying to talk me in. Oh, just get a single stage, get started, and all this stuff. But I went a little crazy, and for my first press, I bought a 1050, and I'm really excited about it. I can't tell you how much I like this. I really didn't think I was just going to get some, do some reloading. That way I would have more ammunition. I wasn't going to save any money. I knew I was going to spend more money. But, I always wanted to be able to shoot a little bit more. So I was going to invest in a press. And I went full crazy with the Dillon 1050. Alright, so this is my Dillon Super 1050. This is 8 stations of wonderful reloading equipment. Very happy, very pleased with this thing, and it's just so super smooth. It is difficult to explain, but great piece of machinery. Okay, for investing a lot in a 1050, you don't want to put your press on a folding table or anything. It needs a real solid base. I read in the manual that a lot of the errors that, symptoms and stuff, problems that you see is the table not mounted to or attached to the wall, or not a secure table. So I kind of went overboard with a big thick, this is square tubing, 2x4 square tubing table. And the top I kind of went long with. Let me move the bullet tray here. So they recommend to put the press at the edge, and I noticed that, I just wanted a little bit overhang so that tray would sit over the table some. And I didn't realize, I knew I was going to notch this out a little bit, but I really didn't expect to notch it out as much as I did. On the manual it says there's 3 adjustment points for this lever, and the lever is height. I thought it was angle, and I thought I'd be able to stop the bar right there. Not so much. And I had to mount it back here because this is where the supports are for the table. So if you're building a table, overbuild your table, but make sure your supports are right on the edge where you can put the mount right on the edge. And it was funny, as soon as I installed this, I kind of hit the table, and then I took my pocket knife and I kind of whittled out just a little bitty section and tested it. I was like, oh no, I gotta go a little bit more. Next thing I know, I'm cutting a big groove, finger-sized groove in there, and it kind of got comical, and so now I just leave it like that. I was gonna cut the table off, but I kind of like the custom install look. And for custom install, I put this primer tube in here. I drilled the hole for the primer tube. And I really like the clear primer tube that attaches here. That way you can see the primer come out. Usually it comes with a little plastic bin that's here, and you can hear the little primers come out. But it fills up really, really quick. And I just took a 223 brass, cut the bottom off with just cut the bottom off. Kind of flared this out a little bit, and it just fits up in that hole perfectly and kind of wedges up in there. And that is, and I bought this tubing, at the hardware store. So super easy to install, but make sure you're the flush of your table. I read some forums. I was worried about the height. And that's what the adjustments in the handles for is, maybe height or whatever, because everything's on the downstroke, and you can mess with that. But I run it at the shortest position. All right, so I bought my 1050 with 9mm. It comes factory all set up like this. You have to add the powder bar, but it comes in the package. This is extra. This is a power check station. You set the rod that goes in here for the depth of your powder, and it helps double check the powder, make sure there's any powder, and it just sets an alarm off if it's not set right. And I recommend this. Yeah, absolutely. It helps just to double check. You kind of get a little too safe. Another option I went with was the tool set with the bracket. It's not the greatest tools. You know, they're pretty good tools, though. They're rounded on one end. Make it easy to get in all the spots. And the bracket, it's not necessary, but it's really nice to have it right here because as you're working, something gets loose and you can just reach for it. And then I also keep tweezers up here. They come in handy. And a brush just to help keep things up. So it's just a couple of things that I like doing, and I would definitely recommend the add-on of the tools with the bracket and the powder check station. One other thing I would suggest adding, or what I added and I really like, is this the Everglade ammunition. They have a primer backup station. This station's empty up here. And what this is, it's just a simple, it backs up the case so when you seat the primer that the shell plate doesn't lift up. And it's real, it's a simple, it's easy, it's under 20 bucks. Other companies make stuff that's like 80 bucks and it's got spring loaded and stuff. This is real simple. This is really all you need just for backup, and you can see how it backs up. See the primer coming up down here? So the primer's coming up and it just backs it up. And another thing that I recommend that I didn't see in the owner's manual is a case. So this case is cut out, right? So I cut this open with a file so I could see in here. And it helps me set all the stations and make sure everything's set right, so I don't have to go by feel and stuff. And I learned this from the Facebook page. Just the Dillon group, everybody recommends cutting. Most of them are rounded out a little bit more with a Dremel, but it really helps you set all the stations and stuff. That's, this is a key, and I would suggest this to anybody to have a case. It's just cut in half so you can see through to help set all the stations perfectly for you. Okay, so the one thing I did break is the swager rod. It goes up into the bottom of the case like this, on the side just where I was just showing you, and it swages. It gets the crimp out of the military brass. So with the Dillon 1050 you're able to run a lot more different kinds of brass, and you can swage as you're going, so it just keeps it a little bit easier, and you can get away with not having the best quality of brass with the. But this is the one thing I broke, and I broke it the first month because I didn't have this, because I didn't have the case cut. I didn't set it right. And it's a lot of pressure, and I think I bent it first, and then I couldn't get it set right, and then I ended up cracking it here. But hey, it's no big deal. Called Dillon. They were like, okay, we'll send one out to you. It was super easy, awesome customer service, and I felt like a complete idiot for breaking this overbuilt fine piece of engineering the first month. But then of course, I joined the Facebook page after I had this and after I broke this, and there's some other stories. Some guy broke his the first day, so I think it's designed at softer material so it doesn't break the machine. This is like engineered to this would be the engineered failure point, but at least it's a cheap piece. Okay, a couple more things I've added. Well, this thing really doesn't count. This is just a hook that I put a rubber band to help keep that tray from falling off. I would keep knocking off that tray, and that's real annoying when you got it full of bullets. But one thing I really like is the zip tie trick to help cases not spill or shake so much when you go to the next station. And what it does is it just puts a little bit of material right in here and to support the case while it has powder. So when you fill it up with powder like right there, you just want it to go smooth to the next station. See how it transfers to the next station? And it just helps it keeps it smooth. So I would definitely, for tie wraps, it doesn't cost much, so definitely worth the time to put in there. Okay, so the last little upgrade recommendation thing that I do to my Dillon 1050 is this primer tube. This helps push the primers down, and it sets off the alarm. Will let you know when your primers are low. But you can add a little weight to it by putting a case on top of it, and it's 45 caliber, so any 45 caliber will fit just perfectly on this little cap here, right? I went ahead and went a little crazy and went with 4570, so I upgraded that to a 4570. Okay, since I went a little overboard with my reloading press and bought the top of the line a little bit overbought. It's a little bit more than what I need, but I'm hoping to reload enough to capacity for it. But anyways, so I cheaped out on a bunch of other stuff. One of the things I cheaped out on was my calipers. These are, I bought them on Amazon, but they're made in China. I think they're just Harbor Freight. I think you can get the same ones at Harbor Freight. But, for me, they work and they're consistent. I don't know how accurate they are compared to other calipers, but for what I do, they help me test, make sure everything's consistent and what's going on there. So, only bad thing is I've gone through one battery, but it's no big deal. That's the only thing that I would complain about this is maybe the battery. Everything else has worked really good on it. Another thing I cheaped out on was the scale. The jewelry scale, it goes down to the thousandths of a grain. So, and it zeroes out really well. I'm kind of happy with this. I haven't had to change the battery. This is kind of worked out, cheaping out on this. So, I would definitely recommend this. The accuracy may not, just like the calibers, may not be accurate compared to other scales, but this one's very consistent. As long as I measure consistently, this works really well. Flip tray. I bought a cheap flip tray, and it's a little flimsy. I wish I spent $2 more and got the green one, right? But I'm glad I saved over 20 bucks and not got the one that said Dillon on it. So that's kind of like a borderline. I'm glad I kind of saved a little bit, but I wish I might have spent maybe $2 more. And then the chronograph. I got just the basic chronograph. Chronograph is a must. I can't believe I started without one. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but you really got to have a chronograph. It makes things so much easier. It's easy to set up. If you don't know, you just go out there, and this one's a basic one. Just go out there and you set it up about 10 foot away, and you shoot through here, and it measures the. It picks up the projectile by light, and it knows this distance, and it gives you feet per second. And it really helps me because I'm trying to develop my IDPA load. So definitely a must. And it's very consistent, very accurate. And it comes back after you shoot groups. It comes back. You just shoot one. There's other models that record different strings, but this one's just the basic one. And it'll tell you high, average, and low. So, it's been picking up everything. I've had a couple crazy readings, but nothing to complain about. I'm really happy with this. But, I'm not too sure if I'm happy that I cheaped out on it. Maybe I would have spent a little bit more money. That way I could have kept more than one string and a little bit better data. Maybe something that hooked up the phone. And I could keep better data like that. But it's a must. Definitely get it. Definitely get a chronograph. But if you have to cheap out, this is not a bad one to go with. Alright, one more suggestion I would get is label everything. I like the masking tape and a Sharpie, and I write on everything. I label everything, that way I know, because everything starts looking the same after a while. And it's a quick way to make labels, so that's another thing. And then the last thing is you got to have a case gauge. And I'm pretty happy. This is a cheap case gauge. I got this off of Midway. Does the major calibers or whatever. I just use it for 9. But the case gauge works is you drop it in. You want the round to slide in, come out real easy. And you want to be able to check the primers and make sure everything's seated. And that's what I like about this square one, is you can set it on the top like this. And if the primer's tall, it'll wobble. And you'll be able to see it a little bit more. Sometimes it looks like it's flat, and you'll set it on there, and you'll notice that the primer's a little high. So you can't do that with a case gauge like this. This one's for 45 ACP, so this one works good. But this is what you got to stay away from. This is a mistake I made. Case length gauge. I thought it was a case gauge, but it's a case length gauge. I bought this off Midway, and this is, I don't know, maybe for rifle calibers or something, but this is completely useless for me, because you know, it doesn't work for loaded ammunition. What it is you're supposed to stick a case in here, and this is the right length for the case, but this thing's useless for me. So stay away from anything that says case length gauge. Yeah, that's crap. I almost forgot my favorite thing, of course, is my light. I got this magnifying glass light. It really helps look at ammo and quality control. And if you have any problems, I usually use this light. I close it up and put it over my press, so it helps me get a little more light, and I can see inside there. It's really helpful because you can put it in any position. And I bought this at Harbor Freight. Really happy with it. Bulb's been lasting, so it's pretty strong.